Oh, Geoff, sorry. I wasn't recording.
No, you weren't. What?
Yeah, the numbers weren't going down or up.
Welcome to Frackulous, a technology podcast for humans. Episode 320. Notification hell, pagers, and the crystal maze.
We're going to skip back to the beginning. Sorry.
But you're Will Head, fixation video professional.
I know. And I've ruined it for everyone.
I can't do my quality gold David McLennan material again.
Well, that's fine because that's recorded on your side.
You do have that, yes. I've got a red light here. Do you want to see what that looks like so you can compare it to your setup?
Yeah. No, it's definitely recording now. So, Geoff, it's just me and you this week.
Where is David?
David is on his way back from the photography show.
I miss his dimpled chin.
I think it will be joining us along with the rest of David McClelland.
He's getting very famous. He's gonna get too big for this. He'll be whisked off to Channel 5 soon, right? No, he's already on Channel 5.
We're going to have to carve out his time. Maybe talk to his agent to get him on the show. But in the meantime, we can talk about notifications, Geoff.
I would love to talk about notifications. Can I give you my thoughts on notifications?
Yes, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Geoff.
The world has too many notifications. This came to a head, to use your surname, this week. I was in a WhatsApp group with about 10 people, and I was trying to concentrate on something, and my phone just kept binging. And I sort of picked up my phone and I hurled it, but I hurled it into my sofa.
Into a soft landing.
I wasn't trying to break my phone, but I needed to. I was like, just stop binging, and I was like, And this is one of the reasons why we've already did this last time. I don't want to get an Apple Watch because I just think my wrist all day would be like bing, bing. I just spend all day checking my watch.
Well, I found the watch is very good for triaging those kind of notifications.
Triage.
It's triage, yeah. It's deciding whether you have to do anything or not.
But you're a video editor by trade. Don't you find that sometimes you just want to concentrate on something? And I definitely have moments where I think I just want to do this for the next hour or two. And sometimes I've just turned my phone off, and I find I'm doing that more as I'm getting older. I want to be notified less.
Well, I use Do Not Disturb quite a bit now. And I only started using it when I started wearing my watch at night. And then I obviously didn't want it pinging all the way through. So I turn Do Not Disturb on when I go to sleep, and I turn it off when I wake up. But I do also, if I do need to get stuff done, occasionally I'll turn that on, and I found that works really well. And it's very clear on the watch when you've got it enabled, so you don't end up leaving it enabled.
What I do realise, though, in saying all this, is that I think my protests are going to fall on deaf ears, because I think we're in a world where people just want more notifications than ever. And so one of my friends amusingly went, "Oh, well, you should join Snapchat." And Snapchat, I've discovered, is about constantly just messaging people all flipping day. And obviously, I'm not a Luddite. I know how to, turn off notifications. Or at least I thought I did, until I went into the WhatsApp app, where I discovered that the WhatsApp app has got a settings section for notifications, but the iOS control, settings part of the iPhone also obviously has notifications, and I'm going, well, which do you set? Which overrides which? Because you could logically argue that iOS overrides the app, and you could argue that the app overrides iOS. And there were so many options. I was like, I don't know which ones to try here, and I had a little strop, and I just deleted WhatsApp.
Right. That was your solution to the problem.
If there was just a label making it clear which overrides which, that would help. But it's not clear. And I still don't know. So if you know, tell me. The easiest way to not get any WhatsApp notifications is to not use WhatsApp. So I have told people, just text me or old school email me. So remember, I am not on Facebook, and I'm now no longer on WhatsApp. In fact, I told David, and he didn't believe me. so he sent me some WhatsApp messages, and then sort of slightly indignant, he did have to iMessage me going, "You're right, I've WhatsApped you, but I've only got one tick," meaning delivered to the server, but not to you. So only then did he believe that I've removed WhatsApp. And I just think we're in a world now where there's actually so many communications channels, iMessage and Facebook and BBM and all that, that it's actually the technology is working against us and it's not making things more streamlined or better. It's just giving us more places to check. And surely, logically, the less places you have to check, the easier your communication channels are to manage. I don't want to have to check 5 different apps. I want to check one app and have all my notifications in one area.
Although that's one thing I found in iOS in particular is the notification center. I mean, it's not perfect.
It is it's far from perfect.
Sometimes it doesn't notify you about things you think it should have done. Other times apps stop notifying you until you open them up and they get re-enabled in some way or other. So it's not a perfect system by any means. But I think it's better than it definitely used to be.
I remember when the BBC Breaking News tool came out. Sorry, no, the BBC News app, and you could turn on notifications for breaking news. And after a week, having the BBC headline news pop up, I was like, yeah, I don't really need this anymore. And no matter what I did, I kept getting notifications. So again, I just deleted the app.
See, there's a theme here, Geoff.
Because I couldn't work out how to turn off BBC Breaking News notifications. It is not simple. I just don't think it's straightforward. And I'm clearly not, as I said, I'm not an idiot when it comes to technology. So how people that, really struggle with using technology cope, I have no idea.
And was it just group messages or was it one-to-one messages?
A combination of all. I've got like one of my best friends is on Android, so they can't iMessage me. They're like, I could text you, but that costs money. So they like to just WhatsApp me, and so they're really annoyed.
So they don't have an inclusive plan?
I guess not. I think they have so many texts.
I've never found text to be anything I've paid for in the last 3 or 4 years, and even then I've had bundles.
Beware that, sorry, we're getting off on a tangent here, that all those inclusive text bundles usually don't count for text services. If you're at a bus stop and you text the TfL number to find out the next bus, that is not included in your bundle, and they will charge you 12p.
So if it's a short code...
If it's a short code, yeah, then it's not included in your bundle. That I learned that the hard way when I got a large phone bill one month, because I've just been texting all these shortcodes.
I've just got a notification on my watch.
Is David here? David, are you there? Say something.
David is in Slack.
Oh, David has joined the meeting.
We can see David McClelland.
This is very exciting. Someone's joining mid-cast. How are you going to edit that in? That's going to be good.
I turned off quite a few notifications recently on iOS. In particular, Twitter. My Twitter got very busy for a couple of weeks back there.
Was this during the troll hunting?
Exactly. It was getting busy, but also I was a bit concerned about how it might turn out as well. And, I think if I learnt anything from doing that, it's don't let notifications rule your life. Yet by enabling the defaults, they can very quickly do that. So I thought, well, you know what? Let's experiment. Let's just turn some of them off. Still 1 or 2 left on. And Twitter gives you a fair degree of granularity, actually. Yeah, I muted some things, and I think got back a fair bit of my life. I feel as though I'm in control again now.
It's like when you unsubscribe from someone that just sends you like a random mailing list, and you feel like you get your life back because your inbox is just that bit emptier. So it's nice.
Yeah, I get that, but here's the difference between what I've done and what you've done, Geoff, with deleting WhatsApp. And I know because I've tried to ping you on WhatsApp, and we went through. You emailed me to tell you that you were no longer responding to WhatsApps, and then I WhatsApped you just to see if it got the double tick and whether you actually received it, and whether it got the blue ticks to see if I'd caught you, but you hadn't. I haven't gone as far as deleting anything yet, although Vine is going to get deleted very soon because that's really annoying me. I just go to the app and check when I want to check it because, I certainly get some value from the WhatsApp groups that I'm in, same with Facebook and Twitter.
Weirdly, the same week that I deleted WhatsApp, I reinstalled Instagram on my phone, and I've sort of been re-enjoying Instagram. But I really like the fact that there's no notifications on it, and it's just when I choose to look at Instagram, I dip in, have a quick look. There's no ping every so often. It just
It does give you notifications.
No, it can do, but I think I've somehow by default managed to not have that on. So I like the fact that Instagram doesn't notify me. So it's great. I just want to be notified less about things.
But there is a setting, because this all came about because you have not enabled Slack notifications. And so I've had to email you to ask you to check Slack, which seems to be the opposite of what Slack is meant to achieve, which is this, it's meant to replace email.
So I use Slack for two. I'm in two Slack groups. This one, and one something else in my other life. And in my other life, I have it turned on, but only when I'm mentioned. Which I think is a setting that you can do, and that's really nice.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Maybe I should do that then.
And then if I need you, rather than having to email you.
Would you like to see me do it? I could do it right now.
While you're doing that, Geoff, I think there's something else though, and particularly with Slack for iOS. And maybe it's an Apple Watch thing as well, but I think it's when you come to rely on those notifications to the extent that you don't go and check the apps, either because of some miscommunication between my Apple Watch and my iPhone or something else. I've missed notifications. They haven't appeared on my watch or on my phone, and it's only when I go and check, I go, hang on a minute, I've got 4 missed messages there. I didn't receive notifications from them. So in a way, I hadn't thought to go back and check them because I thought I would have noticed the notifications.
Does that make you want to manually check things more often and not rely on notifications?
It would be very easy to go down the route of having the worst of both worlds, wouldn't it? To be constantly checking it and also to be pinged when when you do get notifications. It's kind of a double time drain.
But I have found that notifications in iOS is imperfect. And that one thing I was saying earlier was that it's the built-in apps seem to behave better for notifications than some third-party ones. So I was using Inbox by Gmail for a while. But what I found there was a difference to the watch notification. Say if I had more than one email at a time, Inbox by Gmail would say you have 3 messages. Whereas the built-in iOS mail app would be more useful in say you have one from David, you have one from Geoff, you also have an email from Slack. So there was kind of more granularity just in scanning the information I was receiving. But then I have also found that I've stopped receiving notifications from an app and only noticed after a couple of days and thought, I haven't had any notifications from that app for a while, reopened it, and then that's re-enabled the notifications. So I think it's not perfect yet.
No. I mean, iPhone's only coming up for 9 years old.
But there didn't even used to be anything to store notifications. I remember when they first enabled push messages and you'd get a pop-up. It was one you had to dismiss. But once you dismissed it, that was it. There was no way of even checking the message.
I believe you didn't have Notification Center until iOS 7, which I want to say was 2012?
It would have been 2 years ago, wouldn't it?
So 13. So only three years old. So as a technology, it's still extremely recent.
Yeah, it's not perfect. Definitely not perfect. Whereas email is definitely something which people are used to checking, or notifications on other systems work well enough.
There's an audit trail for email. Yeah, a well understood inbox, draft, sent messages, trash.
And I guess I've been using email for getting on for 20 years now.
Hey, yeah. when I always like doing this. When did you send your first internet email? What year?
1994.
Ooh.
Yeah, I want to say.
No, I've never actually thought about this. It was a CompuServe email. It was a number at CompuServe.com, which I shared with the family.
I was at a university, so it would have been, I want to say 1991 for me. I sent an email between.
Wow.
I think mine was probably around 93, 94.
I sent an email between the University of Surrey and the University of Brighton, and my friend replied within like 20 minutes, and I was, and I had to ring him to go, what? How is this? How is that working? I was blown away.
So you didn't get a notification for that? Not on your pager.
On my way. No, I had a pager. No, I did. Oh,
of course you did, Geoff. Of course you had a pager.
No, I did. I had a pager. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I never had a pager, but when I first met Beck, my wife, she had the Swatch pager watch.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where it was only numeric, so you couldn't take any messages other than a number. You'd literally assign yourself a number, phone it up, type your number in, and then Beck would then on her wrist get a notification and have to phone you back.
That was the future at the time, though, wasn't it?
It was, but I think it took 4 of those coin batteries, and I think it lasted about a week. I mean, it really ate those coin batteries. It was the future, but it wasn't great in terms of battery life.
They're going to make a comeback. These things are going to make a comeback, I bet you.
But does the pager network even still work? Is it still out there?
Somebody should make an app that just replicates
Pages.
because my pager, you dialed a number, you then typed in the number of the pager you wanted to contact, and then you typed in a 4-digit number, and basically the 4-digit number was the extension of the number that person wanted you to ring. But very quickly, and I had it for work purposes, but very quickly I realised amongst my friends that we came up with our own list of codes. Mainly all started with 9 something, because on the phone network where we worked, there was no phone extension started with 9. And so we just came up with a list of, we literally had like a printout of 9 codes, meaning, let's go to here for lunch or let's meet up for a drink later. And we just used to page each other with all these codes. So I used it more for personal purposes than work purposes.
But they weren't cheap, those pager messages, were they?
Bizarrely, it was free on Orange back. I don't know why, but you could phone this number for free on Orange, from what I remember.
Speaking of Orange, I know I'm late to the party here. I think I look extremely orange. My face, and I've got this. I don't even know where this is behind me here. But that's also very orange and very kind of peachy indeed. So I apologise if I'm looking a little bit more David Dickinson.
So where are you staying at the moment, David?
I'm staying at the Genting Hotel. I'm in Birmingham.
Hang on, you're not at home.
I'm staying in a brand new hotel. It's only been open 2 or 3 months, I think, called the Genting Hotel, which is part of Resorts World at the NEC, and it's a welcome kick up the backside for nightlife at the NEC, because you've got all these conferences, all these events that take place, and there's nothing here to do of an evening.
Apart from talk to your friends.
Apart from talk to your friends, exactly. However, that has all changed with this new hotel, which is it's a casino, and it's a shopping mall, and lots of food. It's like having a mini Westfield just dumped next door to the NEC, which for those of you who've been to the NEC before, you will know how dire it has been in the evening here. So yeah, that's where I am.
And what are you up to?
I am at the photography show, which is an annual event. It takes place over 4 days, Saturday through to Tuesday, organised by Future Publishing, and I'm doing basically a little TV station here, the official live stream where I get to go around the show, get hands-on with cameras, hands-on with lenses, hands-on with exhibitors sometimes.
You must hate that, David.
I hate it. But also, I get to speak to some childhood heroes as well.
Who have you interviewed? I've been following your Twitter.
Today I spoke with Chris Packham, who's a wildlife photographer. Legend, exactly. Many people, even if they don't recognise the name, they'll recognise his face from Springwatch in the UK on
and
BBC.
The Really Wild Show.
And The Really Wild Show, exactly, from the 90s. Remember the 90s? Maybe even the late 80s, kids. But no, he's ace. We had a really good chat, actually. He's a really switched on guy. Talks a lot about perfection, or the lack of, about creativity as well. And, this is a journey that I've been on, because I've been doing this job at the photography show for the last 3 years now, is I do tech, okay? I can talk about megapixels and apertures and dynamic range and all that sort of stuff, but it's a photography show. So as much as the kit is really important for a lot of people, and me included, the camera itself almost isn't. It gets in the way of the photography for a lot of photographers, and that's what I hear time and time again. They could not give a monkeys about the camera. It's about the image, it's about the subject, it's about the moment and what story it is they're trying to tell, or what personality they're trying to capture, which leaves me feeling very humbled when I've just got really excited holding the brand new Canon 1DX Mark II, 14 frames a second, an incredible feat of engineering from Canon, but it's not about the camera at the end of the day. It's about the photograph. So yeah, there is that kind of constant battle there. And yesterday, I got the big D. I got David Bailey yesterday,
wow,
which was an experience. And I've been warned
How old is he now? He must be.
He's late 70s. I think he was born in about 1930, late 1930s. 1937 rings a bell.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I had lunch at the Ivy with David Bailey once.
Did you? How was he?
He was, yeah, he had some stories. He definitely had some stories.
Yeah, he doesn't suffer fools gladly. I guess, people who have been in his job, who've been asked every question under the sun. But, it's one of those things where people are, quite nervous interviewing him. And I'm like, well, you know what? I get from him. I'm not Newsnight. And whatever my first question was, I got a one-word answer. And I could hear some chuckles from behind the camera. But I left my microphone, because it was a handheld stick kind of interview. I left my microphone under his mouth, and psychologically, subliminally, that encourages people to carry on talking. So I just left it there for a second, and he's like, you heard the penny drop, go, okay, I'm supposed to carry on talking now. So he did. And from the beginning of the interview, where it's one-word answers, through to the end, where the body language had entirely changed, he was facing me, he was looking at me, and he said, good luck to you, kid. At the end, I thought, yes, been on a real journey together in this interview.
Well, I do remember that when this is part of when I used to be a journalist, and we were invited by Lexmark with a group of people to have lunch with David Bailey. And there were probably about 10 of us, I think, there. And I'd had a bit of a chat with him, but obviously everyone was talking. And then I had to leave. I was on deadline, so I had to go back to the office before everyone else. And I was like, thanked him for his time, said I've got to go. And he was like, but we've hardly talked. It's like, yeah, I don't think you're really here to talk to me. But it was very nice of him to.
So David, how are you enjoying the podcast so far tonight?
It's all right. Sorry, I was giving a David Bailey answer there. It's all right.
And I'm holding my microphone. Look, see what I've done.
Oh, yes, very good.
Come on.
I'm working with you, Geoff. I'm working with you.
I got a prop. Okay, right. We won't try that again. Okay, that's more of a visual gag than an audio one, isn't it? That doesn't really work. So we'll put that away.
So, anything else to report from the show, David, that you've had hands-on with?
360 cameras. A few of those around. Fly 360. We took a look at on the show. Hoping to have a look at the Ricoh Theta.
That's the one that I'm interested in at the moment. I think that kind of hits the middle ground of achieving 360. The price is good, and it's not too much of a faff from the look of things. Because I've seen, you sent me the link to the Click video, or the Click program entirely in 360. And I think they're using 6 GoPros in a cage.
That was one of their rigs, yes.
And the post on that must be awful.
Yeah, I saw some tweets from Spencer Kelly at Spenley shortly afterwards, and he was saying that the post-production on that was pretty arduous. So Ricoh's got the Theta, which is just a 2-camera solution. That's very good. And also I got to see what Nikon had done with a Key Mission 360. Now, they announced this at CES a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago now, I suppose. And it's still beta, it's still pre-production at the moment. But I was able to see some of the output of it, put on Oculus Rift headset as well. They were a little bit cagey about some bits of it still. I think it's going to launch just after the Olympics, just in time for Photokina, which takes place every 2 years in September. One of the challenges with the 360 cameras so far has been image quality. I don't think that would be I wouldn't think that would be a problem with Nikon. If Nikon's putting its name to it, image quality has to be absolutely rock solid. So maybe that's where Nikon's using its point of differentiation. But it's essentially the same. It's 2 cameras, with the images actually overlap each other on the side, so they've got a bit of extra fluff room to do the stitching together with.
One thing I'm struggling with for 360 video from a production point of view is, where do you put the crew? Because I'll set up a shoot and we all arrange ourselves behind the camera. So you can have a sound guy, you can have a second camera up, you could have just someone running questions, someone doing the interview. You could have 3 or 4 people on the shoot, plus you've got PRs, plus you've got other people involved. And the idea is to make the front of camera to look as beautiful and tidy and as non-distracting as possible. Once you're shooting 360, where do you put all those people? How do you stop it being distracting?
how do you direct the viewer's attention to where you want it to be directed to as well? I don't know that people really know the answer to this stuff yet. And I guess that was another thing that Spencer Kelly, one of his lessons learned from the BBC Click 360 episode was that you can't do quick takes, you can't do cutaways just to hide an edit in the same way that you would do with, a traditional linear bit, 16:9. It has a feeling of live in a way that you don't get when you're just doing standard sort of camera work. It's an entirely different texture. No one really knows yet. And that's why it's an exciting area to be working and experimenting in, because you do feel as though it's frontier land. And it's one of those rare areas in tech, like when mobile phones were new and, wearables maybe to a certain extent. I think it's that exciting area.
When notifications first came in.
When notifications first came in, Geoff, yes. Where there is a genuine opportunity for people to innovate and to learn and to experiment and to share stuff. That's a great place to be in.
Are you looking to shoot stuff, Geoff, 360?
I was at YouTube Space the other week and they were proudly showing me this. And it's literally like a little cube with 6 GoPros constructed on it.
That sounds like what Click did, actually.
And I went there and I went, oh, this looks really good. And then I went, what? And I then thought, okay. And they were like, you can use it for something. And I then thought, yeah, but what? And actually, so I've struggled to come up with an idea of where actually that would be useful. And I've seen 2 videos online. One was a BBC report about something. Another one was a performance poet artist whom I follow on Twitter. And he was standing on a cliff and somebody had the 360 camera. But I didn't really want to look around. I wanted to look at what he was doing as he was saying it. So I'm still think it's a bit of a novelty at the moment, and is there actually going to be a serious application for why 360 video is going to be useful? I
guess we also have the consumption side of things, which leads us on to PlayStation VR.
How much is it going to be?
It's going to be $400. I'm not sure about UK pricing, and I think that compares to $600 for Oculus and $800 for Vive, and none of these I don't think have UK pricing yet. But that gives you the range, at least.
It's undercutting the competitors quite significantly. And I think PlayStation, Sony, they've broken one promise because they said first half of this year. It's coming out in the second half of this year. But still in plenty of time for the holiday season. And the big advantage that Sony has is that by this Christmas, there'll be in the region of 50 million PlayStation 4s out there.
That's the thing. You need the PlayStation 4, so you need to account for that if you don't have one.
Yes, but there are 50 million people who already do. You compare that with the number of people, based upon whatever Nvidia says or whoever it was, the 1% of people that have a PC capable of plugging in your Oculus to, then actually the Sony is quite a compelling way of getting on board to VR. And there are lots of games. Sony, I know because I've heard from the people on Sony Labs and the developer side, Sony has got a lot of investment in indie developers making content specifically for this platform, and you kind of trust Sony as a gaming platform to be working hard to try and get this stuff right. So Sony, even though its VR offering may not be the most high tech in comparison to HTC and Oculus, I think it's the most compelling platform for newcomers to it right now.
Are you a gamer, David?
I don't have time to be a gamer. I'm not going to lie, I do have an Xbox 360, but that gets used to watch Sky and to play DVDs for my kids.
I took my Xbox to the tip last week.
Did you?
You mean the recycling depot? You recycled it?
I did.
Yes?
I took it to the recycling and waste management centre, and it was placed on the table to then be binned, no doubt, by somebody else when they go, no one wants a 360 anymore.
Not even a museum?
It's been sat unplugged for so long, and it's got to the point where it's like, why am I even keeping this? Sad days.
I was going to say, Geoff, you were just saying how 360 video, you feel as though that's a bit of a novelty without content at the moment. What's your take on VR? Undecided then?
I want to come up with an answer that has an application into it. Having done it a couple of times, both in gaming scenarios, I can see that having more practical examples, because you can then basically let somebody experience something without them having to be there. So, people can see things or experience things.
Tourism.
learn things, understand things, tourism. Yeah, but mate, you could also like you could have an education VR model. You know? So you could be at a lecture being taught something by someone without actually being there, which I think is great.
Google is all over this. They've had David Attenborough doing something, Great Barrier Reef, Google Expeditions it's called. I was at BET a few weeks ago, the big education technology conference. Google was all over that with Google Cardboard. So the education, you're right, is a huge use case.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Hang on, no, sorry. There's a thing called Google Cardboard.
What?
Is that what you said?
Yeah, Google Cardboard.
What the heck is Google?
So I looked into this.
You've bought shares already, well, haven't you? I can see you've invested and you've upgraded to Cardboard 2 or 2.0 already.
Yeah, well, that's happening.
There was a long-time tech journal called Andy Lim, and he worked for a site called Recombu. And one of the things that he made a video about was a budget VR solution, which involved basically putting your smartphone in a cardboard thing in front of your eyes. And then I think about 3 or 4 years later, Google did actually announce an official cardboard program, but I don't think they're selling cardboard itself. They're kind of more speccing it out. So you can build it or you can buy a pre-built cardboard thing that you slip your phone in. And the latest Cardboard 2 is now iPhone compatible, basically. And that's where we are.
So I'm sorry, I still don't actually know what Google Cardboard is. Can someone tell me in one sentence? One sentence.
I'm going to do it in one sentence if you let me start it. Google Cardboard is a virtual reality head-mounted display made out of cardboard that you put your smartphone into that lets you watch, consume, experience virtual reality content. It's made out of cardboard and it's got a couple of bits of plastic optics in there that essentially are macro lenses that help you to focus on your screen really, really close to your eyes and give you that stereoscopic vision, basically.
I genuinely think that that's not a very good marketing name because I didn't know what it was, and cardboard to me, is something a bit redundant. They need a better name.
So to build on top of what Will said, the context here was the Google Developer Conference called I/O. This was 2 years ago, I think, and it was a matter of weeks after Facebook had bought Oculus VR, the makers of the Oculus Rift, for $2 billion. And then Google turned around in a very cheeky move and said, yeah, $2 billion, you can do virtual reality for about $2. And each member of the conference, there's one made out of cardboard on your seat right now, but you have to make it yourself. So they gave them a little kit that they made themselves.
Nice.
And it was seen as a joke to begin with and a big kind of like dig in the ribs at Facebook. And then people realized the power of this, was saying, hang on a minute, this democratizes virtual reality or content consumption or whatever else.
And I think it's a good entry level option. And if you do a quick search on Amazon, I think for about £4 or £5 you can get a cardboard version. But for kind of around £20, there's like a proper headset that you still slip your phone in, but it's made of plastic. It has a headband, that kind of thing. And I think it just lets people experience it without having to lay down the money on a proper VR solution.
Let me show you something, boys. This here,
what do you have there, David?
Is essentially this is as stripped down as virtual reality can get. It's Homido, who make these virtual reality headsets that you're talking about. You slap your smartphone into for about 20 quid, but this is a really chopped down version. It's got 2 of the lenses in it, and it just clips over your phone like this. So you pop on, and the thing is, Facebook supports 3D content now. YouTube supports 3D content. You just pop it on, hold it there, move your face around. You've got the head tracking, the motion tracking. There's all you need as an on-ramp, a very cheap on-ramp. It's not going to be as immersive as a full-on head-mounted display, but this gets you 80% of the way there. And particularly for people who are new to it, have never tried it before, this is one little way of just, teasing them a bit.
Final thing I wanted to talk about. You've been to somewhere fairly exciting recently.
Sainsbury's?
Yeah, Sainsbury's. It was the big one in Sydenham.
There's a giant mega Sainsbury's in Sydenham. I still get I still get, from a man who's been used to going to Tesco like local his entire life, to walk into a big Sainsbury's, it's a little bit Mecca. It's a beautiful thing.
Somewhere slightly less exciting than Sainsbury's, but still quite exciting nonetheless.
For anyone that grew up in the 90s.
A visit that I took to the Crystal Maze last week as I got on the press list. I did think that was, so I work for a London website called Londonist.com, and what was amusing is that I noted that there was like a pecking order in which people got to go. So all the big boys went first. So like they had 3 press days: the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the Wednesday was like all the TV stations and the radio stations. And then the Thursday was like all the newspapers, and then the Friday was all like the blogs and websites. So I was on the blogs and website stage. We're obviously considered third tier, which I always thought was interesting.
Was there tiering within the third tier? Were there like individual bloggers who do stuff? But because the Londonist, I'd say it's much more than a blog, but by a long stretch.
We started as a blog, but we actually had an internal meeting the other day where if anybody refers to us as a blog, we email them politely and say, could you just refer to us as the Londonist, please, and not a log. We are just a website about London. So yes, we are actively dissuading people to refer to us as a blog. We got like the lunchtime shift. I gathered there was like a lunchtime slot and then a late afternoon slot, and I like the fact that we were first. So I don't know who was in the afternoon slot on day 3, but I think that they would have been there at the bottom of the pecking order.
So that's bottom of tier 3, but you're at the top of tier 3.
So I was at the top of tier 3. Yes, it's right near Angel Tube Station. I'm not allowed to tell you where it is, but I can tell you it's right near, like from the entrance of what's obviously they're just taken over like an office/warehouse. You can see the entrance to Angel Tube in London. There's a reception area. First of all, they give you orange puffer jackets to wear, so you look like a bit like a spaceman or just somebody from the 1990s. Generally
keeping that 90s theme.
No, but it was great. I wanted to take mine home. It was really good. Rather than it be one team, there's 4 teams. Obviously, they're in it. It's a business, so to make more money, they have 4 teams playing at once. But there are the 4 original zones. Don't mention the Ocean Zone. Did you know there were 2? There was a series. I didn't realise. I thought it was it Richard O'Brien? I want to say. Is that his name?
Yes.
He didn't do some of the later series.
No, he was taken over by, I can't remember the man.
To me, Crystal Maze has always been Richard O'Brien, but apparently they then brought in they got rid of like the Aztec Zone and they brought in the Ocean Zone. And so the running joke is don't mention the Ocean Zone. And basically they have recreated some of the games like perfectly, and then they've made up some of their own ones. The weird thing is that it's exactly like the TV show, and they play the music, and it's all built perfectly. But the pressure is on. But they go, right, you have 2 minutes inside this room, go, and you literally spend the first 10 seconds going, what is it that I have to do here? And that is the thing that you have to get your head around really quickly, is ascertaining the game. Once you've worked out what the game is quite simple. But the panic is how fast can you work out what it is you've actually got to do. We had one where there was like a giant screwdriver, but it was on a bungee cord, so you had to pull it from one side of the room to the other to like unscrew something, but it kept like yanking back. So that was fun.
Did anyone get locked in?
No. Me obviously had seconds to spare on one of them. We had to sort of run round the side of the room, catapult over something, run back round again, retrieve it. And you had to do it like 6 times, and that then opened up a flap, and then a crystal appeared. But you had to shuffle across on your hands, and you meant to walk across. And because I got long arms, I worked out that I could only go halfway across. And I just leant and picked up the crystal, and then realised that I need to have my hands to balance myself. So I put the crystal in my mouth, like that. Yeah, and then dropped the crystal out of my mouth. And with them counting down 5, 4, I grabbed the crystal, put it back in my mouth, and then sort of like rolled out the door and made it, and it was quite amusing. Very authentic.
There was a great story I heard about the filming of it, that apparently, obviously, it would, as we all know, filming takes longer than real time, so an hour show of the Crystal Maze could take a full day to shoot with each team. And I'd heard that basically, if you got locked in at the beginning of the day, they would leave you in your room for the entire day's filming.
So that's not what I heard.
I then did some research and found out it wasn't true, but I thought that would be absolutely brilliant if that was the case.
In the TV series, if you got locked in, they took some shots of you being locked in, looking frustrated, and then you went and sat backstage in the green room. And then if you were recalled, they then put you back into the room where you'd been locked in, and then they'd release you. That's how it would happen on TV. In 2016, they can note, due to health and safety fire hazards, if you play it at Angel, if you're lucky enough to get tickets, you don't get locked in, but you do get put into a dungeon area, and you're sort of locked up, but you're not confined to a room. And an interesting slant is that they can give up a crystal to have you released, or there's a puzzle which we didn't get to do because no one got locked in, but there's a puzzle which you can do in the dungeon area, and if you do it, then you can like self-release yourself. I get it's like the get out of jail free card. It was really good.
And do you know how long it's going to be around for?
It was until October, and then they sold out all the tickets, so I believe they've just extended it. So I think it's crystal-maze.com, so that more tickets are for sale. It's 50 quid though during the week, and then £60 at the weekend.
It's not cheap.
We were discussing this, but we were saying, how much is Secret Cinema? Secret Cinema is I think it's up. It's even more, isn't it? It's like £70 or something, and you don't get to do anything except watch a film.
You get to dress up in a place you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, you pay for the costume, but the Crystal Maze you do actually.
You get a puffer jacket to wear.
You do get a puffer jacket. I love the puffer jackets. Weirdly, there's a weird balance. The less number of people there are on your team, the more games you get to play, obviously. But the more people there are on your team, the more time you have at the end to grab the golden tokens. And then the brilliant thing they told us is that the dome is there, the final dome, and they found the people that manufactured the dome for the TV series, and they got them back in they got the same design people in to build it for them. And they then told the story that in some instances on the TV series, the automatic blowers that blew up, the gold and silver tokens didn't work. So there were literally 4 men, like crew, lying underneath with like leaf blowers blowing up. That's how it did it. But here in where they've recreated it to play, there are, I gather, there's no men with leaf blowers. There are just machines. That was another difference. In the original TV series, you got a point, I think, for every gold token you grabbed, but you got deducted a point for every silver one you grabbed. They wouldn't go into details, but apparently this was technically too complicated, and so in the Crystal Maze here, there are no silver tokens, just the gold ones.
I'm slightly disappointed to learn that the silver tokens aren't involved, because I had a theory watching it, thinking that you'd actually be better off having a few people randomly taking the tokens from the air, but they have one person stationed just at the box.
Taking out
out. So literally people are passing them to the person who's then doing a filter.
That's a great idea.
And that was the way to win the Crystal Maze. But now, obviously, I will never know if that is the case. But no one ever did it. They just went haphazardly, grabbed tokens, shoved them in the box.
Yeah. But it's not. Well, it's not about the winning. It's the taking part.
No, it's about the winning.
Speaking of taking part, I mean, you were talking about the price there, Geoff, £50, £60, whatever. Value for money?
Yeah, I was in a team of 4. If you were in a team of 8, you get to play less of the number of games. Not all of the games. Some of the games, your teammates shout encouragement through the window. A couple of the games are proper team games. You do participate because you can see things that the person inside can't, especially the one where you have a visor put down and you can't see and you are guiding your teammate. But some of them can only really be done by the person inside. So in a team of 4, it was just about value for money. That's maybe up to a team of 6. If there was more than 6 of you, the more there are of you, the less you get to participate.
Oh, and final question for me anyway. We mentioned how Richard O'Brien was such a key part of the television series, at least many of the seasons of it. As a curator, who was your curator during your time in the Crystal Maze?
Ed Tudor-Pole. So I've just remembered that's who it was. It was Ed Tudor-Pole who took over from Richard O'Brien. Sorry, back to you, Geoff.
They did get in touch with Richard O'Brien and they recorded some footage of him, and they were going to have some sort of projector hologram style welcome to the Crystal Maze, but apparently it just didn't work very well. They had technical issues and they didn't want it to look shit, so they said we won't actually do it. So they actually, so Richard actually doesn't appear. So they just got some old VHS style footage of him saying hello to the Crystal Maze. But they have actors that are dressed up and they have crazy names. So you are led round by a guide, and they're very like, come on, we must run, and they banter with you, and it's all good. There's no Mumsy though. If you remember who Mumsy was, Mumsy does not make an appearance. Sad face. I have been going back and watching old episodes on YouTube.
Was this before or after you went?
I did watch on the night before, and then the day I watched an entire episode on YouTube.
Was that for strategy?
Just to remind myself. I don't want to give away too much, but we did play a game that was an exact take on what had been in the original TV series. I think this could be a whole genre. What other 80s and 90s TV shows can be recreated in an immersive theatre experience?
Let's challenge Annika. You could do that in VR.
The Krypton Factor. Remember that?
Yes, you can actually still do the assault course, I believe.
Total Wipeout, of course. Yes, that's coming to towns and cities all over the UK.
But best of all, I then started reminiscing about the Crystal Maze fruit machine. There was like a pub game machine that you could play. Do you remember that? You could play the Crystal Maze. And I'm not making this up. The greatest moment is that one Saturday I met some friends in the pub at lunchtime and we played the Crystal Maze game. And then that evening in Guildford, we were in another pub and Richard O'Brien was actually there. He was in the pub and we were like, oh my God, he's like...
Was he playing the machine as well?
It was a different pub and they had no machine. Oh, happy days. Thanks for asking about that. That was fun.
End of Frackulous. If your puny human minds can handle more, then follow on Twitter @FRACKULOUS or individually @David McClelland DAVIDMCCLELLAND Geoff Tech GEOFFTECH Will Head WILLHEAD. Email your brains to hello@frackulous.com. Start the fans, please.
I think he's being all famous, isn't he? And he's flying around the world now. I worry that he's going to leave us behind. We can talk about him. I love his little dimple on his chin. That's my favourite thing about him. Sorry, you said my least favourite thing about him. The fact that he looks like Joe Hart, the Man City goalkeeper. I find that confusing. I keep expecting him to dive across the room every time I see him and save a shot. Never happens. I don't hate anything about him. I love my colleague dearly. That's the correct answer, isn't it? That is the correct answer.